Boris Veniaminovich, Rodos was born on June 22, 1905, in Melitopol, in Ukraine, within the Russian Empire. He was the son of a Jewish tailor, and left school at the age of 11. As an office worker in Melitopol, he joined the Komsomol, the Young Communist League, but was expelled in 1930 for committing an alleged attempted rape. He joined the Communist Party of the Soviet Union in 1931, and around the same time, became an officer of the OGPU, the Joint State Political Directorate, in Ukraine. Rodos was then transferred to a minor post at NKVD headquarters in Moscow in May 1937, after the mass arrests of NKVD officers ordered by Nikolai Yezhov. In December 1938, after Yezhov had been dismissed and replaced by Lavrentiy Beria, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant and appointed deputy head of the NKVD investigation department. One of the first prisoners interrogated by Rodos was a fellow officer, Pyotr Zubov, who was arrested for bungling an attempted coup against the King of Yugoslavia. He smashed Zubov's knees with a hammer in a failed attempt to force a confession out of him. Zubov was later cleared and returned to work as a foreign agent, but needed a walking stick because of his injuries. Through the spring and summer of 1939, Rodos was in charge of interrogating his former superior, Yezhov, who had said at his trial that during his first interrogation, "They beat me up horribly." Yezhov didn't need to be tortured as he was so scared he signed everything he was told to sign. Rodos interrogated and tortured the heads of the Ukrainian Communist Party and government, Vlas Chuba and Stanislav Kozyr, and the former head of the Komsomol, Alexander Kozev, and was part of the team who took over the interrogation and torture of Russian writer Isaac Babel in September 1939. In February 1940, he was assigned to beat a confession out of Latvian Bolshevik, Robert Take, who had been convicted and sentenced to death, but was still protesting his innocence. Rodos gave him a harsh beating, and even gouged out one of his eyes, but could not break him. In March 1940, 6 months after the Soviet invasion of Poland, Rodos was sent to direct the deportation of Poles from Lviv, now in western Ukraine. As a reward, he was promoted to the rank of major in 1941. The same year, he interrogated the former People's Commissar for Armaments, Boris Vanikov, throwing him on the floor and jumping on him, shouting the phrase, "Tell all, tell all." While interrogating General Kirill Meretskov in 1941, he broke one of his ribs, but Meretskov survived and gave evidence at Rodos's trial in 1956. In 1943, he was promoted to the rank of colonel. He was dismissed from the MGB, which was their successor to the NKVD, in 1952, likely because Beria had temporarily lost control of the organization. He was then head of the anti-aircraft defense staff in the Crimean city of Simferopol until his arrest on October 5, 1953. During his trial, he was convicted of extracting confessions under torture. He was asked whether he knew what Isaac Babel, one of his victims, did for a living. He replied that he had been told that Babel was a writer, but hadn't read any of Babel's stories. Boris Rodos was sentenced to death on February 26, 1956, one day after Nikita Khrushchev's secret speech, where he denounced Stalin and his cult of personality. He wrote a long appeal, claiming that he had been the blind instrument of senior officers such as Lavrentiy Beria, and that he was being made a scapegoat when he was not the only officer who had beaten prisoners, and pleaded to be spared the death penalty. He was executed on April 20, 1956, in the Butyuka prison, on Moscow. He was 50.